the dawn of drugs, and he was the most notorious criminals of the 80s and 90s. If you want to see how he controlled his Medellin Cartel from the secret island that still remains cut off from all civilization, so without further ado, here is what you'll find inside Pablo Escobar's secret island. Let's dive right into it, shall we? The Empire in Ruins.
Yo he sido muy clara en mi posición política respecto a los grupos, ya sean de izquierda o de derecha.
When you're a drug lord and you have $30 billion in cold, hard cash, what do you do with the money? You could buy 100 mansions, each worth $10 million, and you would still have $29 billion remaining. Private jets? Fine. Get 20, each worth $200 million. You'll still be left with $25 billion. Heck, you can even buy the two versions of the presidential Air Force One worth an estimated $3 billion each, and that still won't get you even close to spending all your money. You would still have $19 billion, and don't even get us started on exotic cars. You could buy 100 Rolls-Royce swept tails, and there's another $18 billion. What the heck do you do with all that money? That's the problem that Pablo Escobar was facing. He was running one of the most successful drug cartels, probably in the history of the world, and the only trouble he had was finding a place to store all those wads of cash. Heck, the cartel was going through $2,500 every month on rubber bands to hold all that grain. And that's why he needed a secret and secluded island that would be far away from the reach of any government body or, God forbid, the police. Even though the entire US of A was looking for him, they just couldn't stop him from importing cocaine into the country as well as the world. So, why couldn't they catch him? Because he was working off a secluded island known as Norman's Cay. This is where Pablo built his mansion, where the drugs were being brought, loaded onto a small plane, and then flown to the US. Norman's Cay was the throne of the Medellin Empire, and it was right next to Florida. This made it easy for the drug lord to smuggle all the cocaine he wished for into the country. This is where they revolutionized the drug smuggling industry. Wow, we never thought we'd say all those words in one phrase. Anyways, as he and his partner Letter, which was his main guy for smuggling, the minister of smuggling, if you will, and he was the one controlling the fleet of small aircrafts that they used to import drugs into the US. And this was their revolutionary way. At the height of their empire, they were operating a fleet of small aircraft. The airstrip was lengthened to 3,300 feet, and this is where all the planes would take off. To hide it, they planted houses on wheels above the strip. This is where the 200 people working in the cocaine labs used to live. When a plane would get picked up by the radar, yes, they had radar, the houses would roll back and the airstrip would be revealed. This way, not even Interpol could find them using fancy satellite imagery. Well, when you're producing 5 tons of cocaine per week, who is Interpol to tell you what you can and can't do? But how much money were they making at the height of their prime? Well, we're glad you asked. You see, at one point they brought in $70 million every single day. That's $150 million adjusted for inflation for 2021. Multiply that by 365 and you get $26 billion in the 80s, or about $55.5 billion. Now do you see why he was spending $2,500 on rubber bands? Because La Isla Grande was the place where Pablo spent most of his days. The mansion he had built for all the lavish parties had about 300 rooms. Hey, you gotta have some place to get all those drug lords to sleep, and you couldn't cheap out because they were usually bringing strippers and prostitutes with them. And that's why each of the bedrooms had golden shower heads, which will tell you how insignificant money was to him. Heck, the man burned $1 million just to keep his daughter warm one night. Plus, on the TV show Narcos, they showed us what life was like for the king of cocaine on La Isla Grande. There were wild parties, heaps of cocaine, and a lot of work. You know, sending cocaine to and from the island, counting money, killing enemies, just your usual day as a narco boss. So what happened to the house after Escobar was killed? Did they turn it into an amusement park? Is anyone allowed to go there? La Isla Grande isn't so grande. Because of all of Pablo Escobar's property was actually seized by the Colombian government, the island was abandoned right after his death. Those 300 rooms and the small houses on wheels? Yep, they're all gone. Now, the island is nothing but a dead wasteland where not a single person goes. We've heard that there are about 800 people living there, but they're poor farmers and fishermen that don't even pay attention to the ruined Escobar estate. Can someone go there? Of course you can, if you can find the route. First, you will have to find someone that will take you from Cartagena to Norman's Cay. You would either get there by boat or speedboats. But there's not many speedboats that would agree to make the journey. Boat it is. Once you get there, you'll need to ask the locals for directions. There's no maps and there's no pointing signs to the mansion. You'll have to trek through thick forests and muddy paths before you can finally see the white concrete walls of the luxurious mansion. But don't get too excited though. This place hasn't been abandoned for a long time, and everything is falling apart and the entire place is one giant ruin. The corridors that once held huge cocaine parties are now decaying, cracked, and they're overrun by grass and weeds. The famous helicopter pad that Escobar used to welcome his drug lord buddies on is now covered in grass and there are wild trees sprouting on every corner. No more people with guns to shoot on sight. It's all just a giant decaying mess, and it's a shame that no one has thought of rebuilding it like the famous Hacienda Napoles, the estate that once included a zoo, sculpture park, as well as Escobar's car and bike collection has now been turned into an amusement park. So you could say that the former splendor was returned to the island. However, this is not the case with his Norman Cay's mansion. In fact, on the premises, you will see a 30-foot speedboat that Pablo rode across the Caribbean. Now, it's decaying on shore and it's overgrown with flowers. And speaking of flowers, what happened to the famous gardens that were surrounding the estate? Nothing. They're still there, untrimmed, and wild boars are feeding off of them. If you get inside the mansion, though, the lobby you will actually get to the courtyard. Currently, it's being shaded by those palm trees. And yes, the pool is still there. Although you wouldn't want to swim in it, it's filled with dirt and garbage and it's completely drained. And if you look ahead, you can see the two chalets. But there's nothing in a ruined reflection of the individual apartments that once hosted guests inside. Why didn't the government decide to sell this to some local investor and turn it into a resort? Well, guess what? You can actually buy the island.
The actual experience exceeds all expectations and is something that's...
Well, not the actual Norman's Cay Island, but you can get close to it, and we'll talk more about that in a second. First, we will need to cover a little of the party history that started all of this. You see, in 2017, Billy McFarland had a great idea to organize a huge summer festival called Fire. The owners agreed to let him organize the event, but they made one thing very clear. Billy was not to mention Pablo Escobar anywhere in the event. He agreed and they shot a promotional video. They got some boats, got some small planes, and a lot of fast water toys. The models were brought in and cameras started rolling. Now, we don't know if somebody lost half their IQ points during the editing of the video, but they said once owned by Pablo Escobar. Everything got canceled, so the Fire Festival had to relocate to Great Exuma. It was 35 acres of lush green forests with 7 white sandy beaches, but they threw it all away. Billy became known as a con man and the festival went bust. But there is one little detail that you should note about this promo video. The island featured at the start is called Saddleback Cay, and it's on sale. Now, we know that it's not Norman's Cay, but when you're just a boat ride away, why not? However, you will need to have $11.8 million in the bank if you want to buy this island. And who knows, you buy Saddleback Cay, you can take a boat to Norman's Cay, and you can find all the dollars that Pablo buried on the island. You'll maybe even turn a profit, or get locked up for life. On a related note, what would be the first thing that you would buy if you had $1 billion? A house or a yacht? You can tell us in the comments section below. If you'd like more videos like these, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss any of them. And as always, thanks for watching, guys.